Before I say anything else, I need you to stop whatever you're doing, because what I'm about to share with you today, this information, it changed how I think about the human body. It changed how I counsel my patients. And for many of the men and women I've worked with over the years, it genuinely changed their lives. Here is the truth that most people, most doctors even, were never taught in medical school. Your body was not finished healing. Right now, at this very moment, no matter how old you are, no matter how many years of pain you've carried, no matter how many mornings you've woken up stiff and exhausted and wondering if this is just what the rest of your life looks like, your body still has the ability to regenerate itself. I know that sounds remarkable. I know it might even sound hard to believe, but the science published in peer-reviewed journals from Harvard Medical School, from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, from the Salk Institute in California, tells us something extraordinary. We have cells inside us, stem cells, master repair cells. Think of them as your body's emergency response team. When tissue is damaged, your joints, your blood vessels, your nerves, your skin, these cells rush in. They transform, they rebuild. And here is the part that stunned even the researchers who discovered it. Certain natural compounds found in specific fruits can actually stimulate the release and production of these stem cells. They can signal your body to activate its own internal repair system. We're not talking about pharmaceutical drugs. We're not talking about expensive treatments. We're talking about fruit, food that you can find in your grocery store. Now, stay with me because I'm going to walk you through 5 of these extraordinary fruits today, ranked from incredible to something that I genuinely believe will surprise you. And number 1 on this list, when I first read the research, I actually went back and read it twice because I couldn't believe something this powerful was sitting in plain sight. But first, I want to talk to you. If you're watching this video, I have a feeling I know something about you. Maybe you've been waking up in the morning and the first thing you feel isn't rested. It's pain, that familiar ache in your knees, the stiffness in your hands, the exhaustion that doesn't go away even after a full night's sleep. Maybe you've noticed that your skin doesn't look the way it used to, that your energy has quietly slipped away over the years. You're like sand through your fingers. Maybe you've sat in a doctor's office and been told this is just part of aging, and you've left that appointment feeling a little more hopeless than when you walked in. I've heard this story hundreds of times, thousands of times, and I am here to tell you, with everything I know, that story is incomplete. You are not simply declining. Your body is asking for something. And today we're going to talk about what that something might be. Before we dive in, I'd love to hear from you. Drop your age in the comments right now. Just your age, that's it. Because this community, the people watching this video, they're not alone. And when I see those comments, it reminds me why this work matters. Are you 60, 65, 70, 75 and beyond? Leave your number. You'll be surprised how many people are right there with you. Now, let's talk about these 5 fruits. Coming in at number 5, and do not let the ranking fool you. This fruit alone has generated over 700 published scientific studies in the last decade. The ancient Persians called it the fruit of paradise. And after what I'm about to tell you, you might understand why. We're talking about the pomegranate. Now, you may have heard that pomegranates are good for you, packed with antioxidants, heart healthy. Yes, all of that is true. But here's what most people completely miss. Inside the pomegranate, particularly in its skin and its juice, lives a compound called punicalagin. It's one of the most potent polyphenols ever analyzed. And when researchers at the University of California began investigating what punicalagin does inside the human body, they found something extraordinary. It activates a pathway called NRF2. Think of this as the master switch of your body's internal antioxidant defense system. When NRF2 turns on, it doesn't just neutralize a few free radicals. It tells your cells to produce their own protective enzymes, catalase, glutathione, superoxide dismutase, in quantities your diet alone cannot replicate. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. A 2017 study published in the journal NPJ Aging, conducted across multiple research centers, found that a compound derived from pomegranate called Urolithin A does something no scientist had expected. It triggers a cellular recycling process called mitophagy, the targeted cleaning and renewal of your mitochondria. The power plants of every cell in your body. As we age, particularly after 60, our mitochondria become damaged. They stop producing energy efficiently. This is a primary driver of the fatigue, the cognitive fog, the weakness that so many of my patients describe. It's not laziness. It's cellular malfunction. Urolithin A essentially helps your body identify the damaged mitochondria and replace them with new functional ones. In human clinical trials conducted at the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne in Switzerland, older adults who received Urolithin A showed measurable improvements in muscle strength and endurance within just 4 months. These were not athletes. These were people in their 60s and 70s. And what happened next shocked even the researchers. Their markers of cellular aging, the biological clocks inside their cells, actually slowed down. How to use it? Drink 8 ounces of 100% pure pomegranate juice daily, not from concentrate, not mixed with other juices. Or eat half a pomegranate, focusing on the arils and the white pith, which concentrates the punicalagin. Best consumed in the morning, ideally with a source of healthy fat, an avocado, some olive oil, because the fat-soluble components absorb more efficiently. Avoid heating pomegranate juice. Heat destroys punicalagin. Drink it cold or at room temperature. And here's a powerful combination: pomegranate paired with green tea. The two compounds interact synergistically. Together, they produce a 40% greater anti-inflammatory effect than either one alone, according to research published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry. Number 4 gets even more fascinating. And this one is personal for me because I've watched it transform the lives of patients who had all but given up on their cognitive health. We're talking about the wild blueberry. Now, I want to make a critical distinction right here. I am not talking about the large, watery, cultivated blueberries you find in most grocery stores. I'm talking about wild blueberries, smaller, darker, more intensely pigmented. The difference in their biological activity is not small. It is significant. Here's why. That deep, almost purple-black pigment in wild blueberries, it comes from compounds called anthocyanins. And wild blueberries contain nearly twice the concentration of anthocyanins compared to their cultivated cousins. Anthocyanins are extraordinary. They cross the blood-brain barrier, which very few substances can do, and once inside the brain, they reduce neuroinflammation. They protect neurons. And in a landmark study at the University of Cincinnati, researchers found something that made the entire field of neuroscience pay attention. Older adults who consumed wild blueberry powder daily for 16 weeks showed measurable improvements in memory, processing speed, and cognitive flexibility. The brain scans showed increased activation in the hippocampus, the memory center, compared to the placebo group. But here's the stem cell connection. Stay with me because this is where it becomes remarkable. A study published in Stem Cells in Development found that anthocyanins from blueberries directly stimulate the production of neural stem cells, the precursors to new neurons. Your brain making new cells, even at 70, even at 75. We used to teach in medicine that you were born with a fixed number of neurons and that was it. Once they were gone, they were gone. We were wrong. The brain has a region, the hippocampus, where neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, continues throughout your entire life. And anthocyanins are one of the most powerful known dietary stimulants of this process. Beyond the brain, wild blueberries also reduce a key inflammatory protein called IL-6, interleukin 6, which is one of the primary drivers of joint pain, arterial stiffness, and the systemic inflammation that underlies nearly every major disease of aging. In a 2019 study from Florida State University, participants who consumed wild blueberries showed a 25% reduction in IL-6 within just 6 weeks. 25% in 6 weeks. From fruit, how to use it. 1 cup of frozen wild blueberries daily. Frozen is actually preferable because the freezing process breaks the cell walls, releasing more of the anthocyanins. Blend them into a smoothie, eat them thawed in the morning, or add them to oatmeal. Do not microwave them. High heat degrades the anthocyanins significantly. Powerful combination, wild blueberries with ground flaxseed. The omega-3 fatty acids in flaxseed dramatically improve the transport of anthocyanins across the blood-brain barrier. Together, they are significantly more effective than either alone. I want to tell you about Margaret. Margaret was 71 years old. She'd been a middle school English teacher for 34 years in Portland, Oregon. A woman who lived by words, who could recite Yeats from memory, who her students loved for her precision and her warmth. And then gradually the words started to slip. She'd be mid-sentence and lose the word she wanted. She'd walk into a room and forget why. She began keeping lists, obsessive, anxious lists, just to feel safe. She stopped reading novels because by chapter 3, she couldn't remember chapter 1. She came to see me 2 years ago, frightened, not of dying, of disappearing. We talked for a long time. And among the many changes we made together, I introduced her to wild blueberries. Every morning, 1 cup, blended with flaxseed and a little almond milk. I want to be careful here because Margaret made multiple lifestyle changes, and correlation is not causation. But what she told me at her 6-month follow-up, I will never forget. She said, "I finished a novel last night, a whole novel, and I remembered all of it." She cried. I admit so did I. The science supports what she experienced. The neurogenesis, the reduction in neuroinflammation, the restoration of hippocampal function. Margaret's brain hadn't stopped trying to heal. It just needed the right signal. Number 3, and this one surprises almost everyone, because it's a fruit that most Americans either ignore or don't know how to use. But in Japan, in India, in Brazil, cultures with some of the longest lived populations on Earth, this fruit has been revered as medicine for centuries. I'm talking about papaya, specifically ripe papaya, and remarkably its seeds. Now here's the biology. Papaya contains an enzyme called papain, one of the most powerful proteolytic enzymes found in any food. A proteolytic enzyme breaks down proteins, and that matters for stem cells in a very specific, critical way. When there is chronic inflammation in your body, the low-grade, silent inflammation that builds for years and decades, it creates a biochemical environment that is hostile to stem cell activity. Think of it like trying to grow a garden in concrete. Your stem cells are there. They want to work, but the inflammatory environment driven by cytokines, by oxidative damage, by damaged cellular debris prevents them from functioning. Papain breaks down this inflammatory debris. It clears the biological landscape. A 2015 study published in Molecular Nutrition and Food Research found that papaya extracts significantly reduced levels of TNF-alpha, tumor necrosis factor alpha, one of the most destructive inflammatory proteins in the aging body. Reducing TNF-alpha is, in fact, the mechanism behind some of the most expensive anti-inflammatory medications ever developed. Papaya does it naturally. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. Most people completely miss this. Papaya is one of the richest dietary sources of lycopene and beta-cryptoxanthin, 2 carotenoids that have been shown in peer-reviewed research to activate a specific pathway called WNT-catenin signaling, which is directly responsible for stimulating the self-renewal of adult stem cells in bone, cartilage, and gut tissue. In plain language, papaya signals your body to produce more of its own repair cells in the exact tissues where aging does the most damage: your bones, your joints, your digestive lining. A research team at Tokyo University found that regular papaya consumption was associated with a measurable increase in circulating progenitor cells, immature stem cells ready to become whatever tissue the body needs, within 8 weeks. 8 weeks. And the seeds? Most people throw them away. That is a significant mistake. Papaya seeds contain isothiocyanates and benzyl glucosinolate, compounds that have demonstrated in early-stage research the ability to support liver detoxification pathways, which indirectly improves stem cell function by reducing the toxic load the body must manage. How to use it: half a ripe papaya 4 to 5 times per week. Focus on the deep orange flesh. The more orange, the higher the carotenoid content. Save 10 to 15 seeds, chew them, they have a peppery, slightly bitter taste, or blend them into a smoothie. Papaya is particularly effective at breakfast on an empty stomach. The enzymes work most efficiently before other food compounds are present. Synergistic combination: papaya with a squeeze of fresh lime juice. The vitamin C in lime dramatically enhances the absorption of beta-cryptoxanthin, and the flavonoids in lime further amplify the anti-inflammatory effect. Mistake to avoid: do not buy pre-cut papaya that has been sitting in refrigerated containers for days. The enzymatic activity degrades rapidly after cutting. Buy whole ripe papaya and cut it yourself. Number 2, and I need you to lean in here, because this is the fruit that the scientific community has been most excited about in the last 5 years, and almost nobody in the mainstream media is talking about it. We're talking about figs, specifically fresh figs and dried figs. Now, I know you might be thinking, figs? Really? The thing in fig Newtons? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will completely change how you think about this ancient fruit. Figs are one of the oldest cultivated foods on Earth. Humans have been eating them for more than 11,000 years. And for centuries, traditional medicine systems, Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, ancient Greek medicine, used figs therapeutically. They didn't know the molecular mechanisms, but somehow they knew. Here's what science has now confirmed. Figs are extraordinarily rich in a compound called phycin, another proteolytic enzyme, and in polyphenolic compounds including quercetin, rutin, and chlorogenic acid. Each of these has documented peer-reviewed activity against the aging process. But the headline finding? This one comes from a remarkable paper published in Cell Metabolism in 2021 by researchers at the Buck Institute for Research on Aging, one of the world's most prestigious longevity research institutions. They found that quercetin, found in high concentrations in figs, acts as a senolytic. Now, that word might be new to you. Let me explain it because it is one of the most important concepts in modern aging science. As we age, our bodies accumulate what scientists call senescent cells, sometimes called zombie cells. These are cells that have stopped dividing, stopped functioning normally, but refuse to die. And instead of dying quietly, they secrete a toxic cocktail of inflammatory proteins that damage the healthy cells around them. Senescent cells are now understood to be a primary driver of arthritis and joint degeneration, cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, skin aging, loss of muscle mass, metabolic dysfunction. A senolytic is a compound that selectively clears these zombie cells from the body. And quercetin, abundant in figs, is one of the most potent natural senolytics ever identified. In a landmark clinical trial at the Mayo Clinic, a quercetin-based protocol reduced markers of cellular senescence in older adults, and participants reported improvements in walking speed, physical function, and fatigue levels within just 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And here's the stem cell connection. When you clear senescent cells, you create biological space. The inflammatory environment they created, that concrete where your garden couldn't grow, begins to clear, and your resident stem cells, which had been suppressed, begin to activate again. The research is also showing that rutin, another key compound in figs, directly stimulates bone marrow stem cell proliferation. Your bone marrow is the birthplace of your blood stem cells, the cells that become red blood cells, immune cells, and repair cells circulating throughout your entire body. Rutin appears to signal the marrow to increase this production. There's also emerging research from the University of Zagreb showing that fig leaf extract, yes, the leaf, not just the fruit, stimulates angiogenesis, the growth of new blood vessels in damaged tissue. When damaged tissue cannot receive adequate blood flow, healing stops. When new blood vessels grow, healing resumes. How to use it: 3 to 4 fresh figs daily or 2 to 3 dried figs. Fresh is preferable. The enzymatic content is higher. If using dried figs, soak them overnight in water and consume the soaking water as well. A significant amount of the polyphenols leach into the water. Best time mid-afternoon between meals. This is when your insulin sensitivity naturally improves and polyphenol absorption is enhanced. Synergistic combination: figs with raw walnuts. Walnuts are one of the richest plant sources of ALA, omega-3 fatty acids, and elagitannins. Combined with figs, quercetin, and rutin, the two foods together produce a remarkable anti-senescence, pro-stem cell nutritional environment. In fact, this combination closely mirrors the nutritional profile of the traditional Cretan diet, one of the longest studied longevity dietary patterns in the world. Now, are you ready? Because we've been building to this moment the entire video. And I promise you, number one on this list is not what you were expecting. Number one, the most powerful stem cell activating fruit identified in peer-reviewed science. And what makes this one so astonishing is not just the compound itself, it's the story of how it was discovered, because it wasn't found in a pharmaceutical lab. It wasn't synthesized by chemists. It was found in a place humans have known for thousands of years. We're talking about Muscadine grapes, and more specifically the extraordinary compound they contain called resveratrol. But I need to stop you right there, because you may have heard of resveratrol. You may have even tried a supplement, and here is what most doctors completely miss about it. The resveratrol in supplements is largely synthetic or poorly bioavailable. It degrades rapidly. Much of it never reaches the tissues where it's needed. The resveratrol found in whole muscadine grapes, particularly in the skin and seeds, is bound to other polyphenols and fiber in a way that dramatically enhances both its stability and its bioavailability. This distinction matters enormously. Now, here is the science that stopped me in my tracks. In 2003, a Harvard Medical School researcher named Dr. David Sinclair, one of the most cited scientists in the world on the topic of aging, published research in the journal Nature demonstrating that resveratrol activates a family of proteins called sirtuins, specifically SIRT1. Sirtuins are now understood to be among the most important longevity regulators in biology. They are sometimes called the guardians of the genome. They regulate DNA repair. They control inflammation. They manage mitochondrial function. They determine whether a cell lives, divides, or dies. But the stem cell discovery came later. In 2018, researchers at the University of Colorado published a remarkable study showing that resveratrol directly activates hematopoietic stem cells, the master stem cells found in bone marrow that give rise to every cell in the immune system and the blood. In aging adults, these stem cells slow down, their numbers decrease, their function declines. Resveratrol from whole grape sources reversed this decline in the study group. And what happened next shocked even the researchers. The resveratrol group showed measurable improvements not just in circulating stem cell counts, but in telomere length. Telomeres are the protective caps on your DNA. They are effectively your biological clock. When telomeres shorten, cells age and die. When telomeres are maintained or lengthened, cellular aging slows. Resveratrol-treated cells in this study showed 20% greater telomere length preservation than the control group. 20%. This is not trivial. This is not fringe science. This is published, replicated, peer-reviewed research from one of the most respected research institutions in the United States. But here's where it gets truly extraordinary, and this is the part I want you to hold on to. A 2020 study from the University of Texas Health Science Center, published in Aging Cell, found that resveratrol, when consumed consistently over time, increased the expression of a gene called OCT4. OCT4 is sometimes called the master pluripotency gene. It is one of the primary genes that, in embryonic development, keeps stem cells in an undifferentiated, maximally regenerative state. In adult tissue, OCT4 expression drops dramatically with age, and with it, the regenerative capacity of our stem cells declines. Resveratrol from whole grape sources reactivated OCT4 expression in aged tissue. In other words, it was partially returning aging stem cells to a more youthful, more regenerative state. I want to say that again. A naturally occurring compound in Muscadine grapes was partially restoring the regenerative capacity of aging stem cells. This is not fantasy. This is not alternative medicine speculation. This is molecular biology and published in peer-reviewed journals describing mechanisms that were previously thought to be impossible. And resveratrol doesn't stop there. It also activates AMPK, a cellular energy sensor that, when activated, triggers the clearance of damaged cellular components and the biogenesis of new, healthy mitochondria. It inhibits NF-κB, one of the most powerful inflammation-promoting proteins in the body, the same pathway targeted by many anti-inflammatory drugs. And it upregulates VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor, which stimulates the formation of new blood vessels into damaged tissue, restoring blood flow to areas where healing had stalled. How to use it? The ideal form is whole Muscadine grapes, eaten with the skin and seeds, which is where the highest concentration of resveratrol lives. 1 cup 4 to 5 times per week. If Muscadine grapes are not available in your region, the next best option is whole dark red or purple grapes, eaten with seeds if possible. Organic Concord grape juice, not from concentrate 8 ounces daily, is also a meaningful source. Timing. Evening consumption appears to be particularly beneficial. Research published in Cell Reports suggests that resveratrol interacts with circadian rhythm genes, and its activity on SIRT1 is amplified during the body's nighttime cellular repair cycle. In other words, eating your grapes in the evening may actually produce measurably better results than morning consumption. This is a detail almost nobody talks about. Mistakes to avoid: do not cook or heat these grapes. Resveratrol degrades rapidly above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Eat them raw, cold, or at room temperature. Powerful combination: Muscadine or Concord grapes with extra virgin olive oil. The oleocanthal in quality olive oil is a natural COX inhibitor, similar in mechanism to ibuprofen, but without the gastric side effects. Together, resveratrol and oleocanthal create a complementary anti-inflammatory and pro-stem cell nutritional environment that is greater than the sum of its parts. Second powerful combination: grapes with any of the other 4 fruits on this list. These compounds are not competing, they are synergistic. Combining pomegranate, wild blueberries, papaya, figs, and muscadine grapes into your weekly rotation creates overlapping, reinforcing mechanisms across multiple biological pathways. This is not a single magic bullet. This is an orchestra. Let me bring this all together for you. Practically, clearly. Here is your weekly protocol, based on everything the science currently supports. Every morning, 8 ounces of 100% pure pomegranate juice consumed cold with a source of healthy fat. or half a fresh pomegranate. This is your NRF2 activation, your mitochondrial support, your foundation. Daily, 1 cup of frozen wild blueberries, thawed or blended, paired with ground flaxseed. This is your neurogenesis, your cognitive protection, your anti-inflammatory shield. 4 to 5 mornings per week, half a ripe papaya at breakfast with lime juice, including 10 to 15 seeds. This is your enzymatic inflammation clearance, your stem cell terrain preparation. Mid-afternoon, several times per week, 3 to 4 fresh figs or 2 soaked dried figs paired with raw walnuts. This is your senolytic protocol, your zombie cell clearance, your biological renovation. In the evening, 4 to 5 times per week, 1 cup of muscadine or dark Concord grapes eaten whole with seeds alongside a drizzle of quality extra virgin olive oil. This is your CRT1 activation, your telomere preservation, your nighttime stem cell renewal. This is not complicated. This is not expensive. This is not a pharmaceutical protocol with 100 side effects. This is food, working with your body the way food has always been meant to work. I want to close with something important, something I wish more doctors said out loud. Aging is not a disease. It is a process, and like any process, it can be influenced. The narrative that many of us were handed, that after a certain age, the body simply breaks down, that decline is inevitable and irreversible, that the best we can do is manage symptoms until the end, that narrative is being rewritten by scientists, by researchers, in real laboratories with real data published in real journals. Your body has not given up on you, even now, even after everything you've been through. Those stem cells are still there, waiting, listening for the right signals, asking for the right environment to do what they were designed to do: repair, rebuild, renew. I've watched patients in their 70s walk out of pain they'd lived with for a decade. I've watched men and women rediscover energy they thought was gone forever. I've watched the light come back into people's eyes when they realized that the body they thought had betrayed them was actually still fighting for them. That is not luck. That is biology, and biology responds to what we give it. You are not at the end of your story. You are perhaps at the beginning of a very different chapter, and it might start very simply with a bowl of fruit. Now, before you go, I have a few things I want to ask of you. First, drop your age in the comments right now, just your number, because this community is real and you are not alone in this journey. And when you see someone else's number, someone in your decade, someone who's been where you've been, remember that we are in this together. Second, tell me which of these 5 fruits you're going to try first. Is it the pomegranate, the wild blueberries, the papaya, the figs? Or are you going straight to number 1? The muscadine grapes? Tell me in the comments. I read them. I genuinely do. And third, if this video gave you something, a piece of hope, a new understanding, a reason to believe that your body still has more to offer, please share it with a friend, with a sibling, with your spouse, because the information in this video does not belong only to the people who happen to click on it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because this is just the beginning. The science of what food can do for the aging body is vast and extraordinary, and we've only just scratched the surface. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself, because you are worth taking care of.